August 17th. Wow, the whole summer is just going away. We have the new business school, which we have been doing this free live series, and our goal is 2026 is the year specifically for coding agents. All of the value in AI this year has really come from the entire supply chain for coding agents, as well as some deeply civilizational issues like drug discovery. And one of the big concepts in AI right now is agentic commerce. You may have noticed that yesterday, Stripe made an acquisition for $7 billion. Stripe, many people in their head, they think Stripe is a startup. Stripe actually processes more than 1% of the world's gross domestic product. Now, I think for many people, we have forgotten what that means. So let's take a look at the gross domestic product. It's the total dollar value of all final goods and services. In a previous lecture, what we talked about was that your business, and the big reason why I called solopreneurship stupid is because it does not recognize your business as something that is producing a good or service consistently and scalably. So remember, all final goods and services produced. Now, usually this is measured inside of a country. But if I was to take a look at the global rankings, we would be able to take a look. This data is sourced by the International Monetary Fund. What we will see here is that the United States has a gross domestic product of 32 trillion, let's take a look, trillion dollars. And if we were to take a look, we see all the countries in the world, and then we also see like there's many countries in the world who only have millions. One of the biggest challenges today is that I'm going to put this on the board. People, especially solopreneurs, do not understand time and math. Now, that seems like a pretty big claim to make. And it's the type of claim that, it gets people like hot and bothered for no reason. So let's dive into this. What do I mean when I say that? Well, here's a question for you. What's the difference between, and let's look at these three things: 1,000, 1 million, 1 billion, and 1 trillion. So I'm going to say, whenever you see IE, that should mean in other words. A lot of people will incorrectly type that. So this is in other words a billion. In other words, this is a million. And then in other words, this is 1,000. Now, if you know anything about middle school type of math, like basic exponents, and I do think it's important to call this out as middle school math. This is something that you should know by the 6th grade. The difference is that these are all different by orders of magnitude. This is how earthquakes are measured. That's why I'm telling you that this is something that you should know by 6th grade. It's okay if you don't. I'm just mentioning that in America, we have a show called, in America, we literally have a show called Are You Smarter Than a 5th Grader? Like, right? So we do learn a lot well before middle school. So these are orders of magnitude. These are how different, remember differential calculus, diffie-q. So we want to be able to differentiate. And how do we differentiate? Well, we differentiate by a base of 10, a base of 10. And so if we were to take a look, we would say, oh, this is 3 orders of magnitude. So you'd say 10 raised by 3. That is the difference. And so you're going up by that. However, your human mind still doesn't have the ability to do this. And so coming back into the worked example of why I will always tell people solopreneurship is a stupid losing game that will hurt you is mainly because you need to be able to understand time and math. So let's do this in terms of time and math, because numeracy is the new literacy. So now we're going to come over here, and what I'm going to do is, so 1,000, if I was to take a look and I was to do a comparison, if I was to compare numbers with their representation as time, how long is 1,000 seconds? 1,000 seconds is roughly 15 minutes. 1 million seconds is actually about 12 days. 1 billion seconds would be 32 years. And then 1 trillion seconds would then be 32,000 years. So this is extremely important because it helps us understand not only like orders of magnitude, but now we can understand, oh, wow. And this is the big reason why, again, I'm going to call out solopreneurship as stupid. The reason why I'm going to call this stupid again, and I'm specifically using that word stupid, is because of the following. If I'm looking for short-term verifiable rewards constantly, I don't have the ability to play this game of trillions. If I'm always looking for short-term rewards, I'm going to make a piece of content, I'm going to post it, people are going to comment, I'm going to make sales, they're going to refer people. That's what most businesses want to do. And so realizing this, you can't play the trillion-year game. And so a lot of times, so this is where I kind of want to point certain things out. Mission-driven solopreneurship. This is one of the biggest ways to live a poor life of total poverty. You will have to wait a very, very long time to get here. If you're hoping world will change, no. Given that you are a solopreneur and you make content, that's how you work your business, it'll take 32,000 years for the world to actually change if you're going to do that stuff. Like orders of magnitude, given what you're doing, given your input, right? This is why I'm trying to really get people to think a lot shorter in terms of where they are and lose these ideals for the time being. Numeracy is the new literacy. Let's come back to Stripe. So Stripe made an acquisition for $7 billion. This is a game that Stripe can play, a mission-driven game. But not only that, Stripe is actually closer to the trillions. So I'm going to say, what is global GDP? Count on this list. And so what I'm doing right now is like I'm literally using AI to do a quick calculation so that I can just talk to you guys briefly about this. And we'll see, this is using Haiku 4.5 directly inside of the browser. It has the ability to read the page directly in front of me. And what I like about it is that, yes, I probably could just like hit Control A, drop it in somewhere and then do it. But never leaving where I am is super helpful. Count money total. And so the first time around, notice like it didn't do what I asked it to do. I asked it to ask for the total and then it didn't. That's because AI kind of sucks at math. It's really good at language because it's a large language model. Math, not as much, because math is about formulas. Math is better expressed through code. And so that's why you see the marriage right now between AI and specifically using it for coding agents, because that's where we use a good deal of applied mathematics. And I'm pretty sure that if we were to take a look at the command being run here, this is going to be writing some Python so that it would be able to count this number, which is going to be here. So the goal, so global GDP, the gross domestic product of the world, is $126 trillion. So it's about 4 times the size of the whole US economy. So this would be the United States plus 3 things its own size. Now let's come back to this model. Now in this model, again, Stripe is really playing in this game of changing the whole world. The way they do it is by owning and setting up the rails for things. Shopify is another business that also uses Ruby on Rails to create a lot of the rails for doing things. So that was my goal in saying that. And so the big thing that I want to warn to everyone is that right now, as an American, companies love advertising to you. Companies advertise to you because in a global market, as I just pointed out, if the United States makes up a quarter of the world's total economy by only focusing on one market, you would be able to have a quarter of the world's demand for consumers. As a result of this, advertising to an American will get you a cost per mil, being that if you advertise to 1,000 Americans, you can charge $30 for every 1,000 people that see the ad. Now, let's say if you were to take a look at where Khazar comes from, Pakistan, that number is actually going to be closer to $1. If you take a look, so Anthony is also from America, lives in Brooklyn, but he has a big heritage in his family, Jamaica. Now, again, that number is going to be different. That number could be $2, could be $3. It's going to be set based on that. And these numbers are based on your ability to spend. What we're realizing now is that, oh, okay, well, marketing to a human being is hard. It's expensive. I have to make the product and then I have to market the product. So what's going to happen next is that people are going to say, you know what? I don't actually need people to buy because people don't really have money. What we've seen in the American economy is that people are not only just buying stuff, but they're also buying things with debt. The majority of the United States economy is debt, being buy now, pay later. So if that's the case, then people are going to look for this trend of agentic commerce, because a human may need 7 phone calls to buy something for $1,000. An AI agent does need 0 phone calls. It is likely that it is so much easier for a business to sell to other AI agents rather than selling to humans. Once it becomes a better trade for businesses to sell to an AI agent rather than it would be to sell to a human, everything is going to flip on top of its head. So that is kind of like so that's the preamble for today's workshop. And the reason that I really cared to go over that is that, numeracy is the new literacy. That's why I care so much about teaching business calculus in this way, is that people, especially the solopreneurs, being, the internet creators, do not understand time and math. They do not understand time and math. And my proof is being able to understand, well, what is the actual difference between 1,000, a million, a billion, and a trillion? Now, many people struggle to answer this question. The most simple, parsimonious answer is that This is measuring orders of magnitude by a base of 10. This is using basic sixth grade math of exponents, being able to understand the difference between earthquakes. Then there's something that everyone can understand. Like this one is below sixth grade. This is understood by a fifth grader. And this is time because we're humans. We all go through time. A fifth grader has the ability to understand, oh, 15 minutes, I'm still going to be stuck in this class. This sucks. 12 days from now, I'm still going to be in school. School semester's still running. And like, oh, I have a test coming up. 32 years, they're going to be like, oh man, like life's already done. It's over. They're going to have a different understanding of it. 32,000 years, they're going to be like, oh my God, that's dinosaurs, right? Literally. Numeracy is the new literacy. And so the big issue is that internet creators think that they're going to be mission driven. And the challenge is that they will be mission driven. But to be mission driven, you need a 32-year time horizon. If you do not have the ability to suffer and go through pain for 32 years, you cannot be a mission driven entrepreneur. You are going to constantly be stuck in what I will call the rat race. But what I'm going to call it is I'm going to call it the elite rat race. The elite rat race is a concept of like, oh, well, like at least I'm not doing a corporate 9 to 5. Like I work for me, but you're still in a rat race. You're just not in the same rat race of the people you went to school with, the people you grew up with, the people in your family, but you were definitely still a rat. Sorry. So to be mission driven, you must act in a 32-year time horizon. However, in the internet, we know you're going to post and you're going to check in 15 minutes how many likes it got. If a customer came in, you need to talk to them immediately. So as a result, internet creators are really in this top area of the 1,000. However, they have hallucination that they're mission driven. They only have the ability to really focus in 15-minute increments. This is, with many people just getting started in business, you get started with what we will call a Pomodoro timer. If you're someone who benefits from a Pomodoro timer, you are still in this short area. Then when we have people who do things in 12 days, this is when we have organized plans. 32 years is when we're like, not only do we have like organized plan, exact way of doing things, but we also have like a team of people who know how to work together. So this ties this first kind of preamble of me doing the anti-example. So many people are going to be like, oh my God, like, why would I pay Stripe? Why would I use this? Why would I use Paddle? Why would I want to keep all the money for me. I can't afford that. I'm not going to do ads. I'm not going to do that. Who can do that? So this is so today's class is going to be probably a lot more so focused on the anti-goal. The anti-goal being what we will call stupid solopreneurship. Now, our goal so this is the anti-goal, but we do have a goal. We want to have an AI agent that can make $100 a day. Our technique for doing this will be Agentic Commerce. Now, our long-term goal is going to be how we correctly align our AI. Alignment is going to be like a very simple concept. I'll try to do a basic. So look, if this dot right here represents your short-term goal, this next dot represents a long-term goal, your alignment is just making sure that you get from here to here. So we want $100 a day. So this is the desire we want. The need that we have is having time and location freedom and living a rich life. And then, of course, there's going to be another point of hubris, which is going to be saying this is what we want, but then this is where we actually are. And so this is one of the other big challenges of mission-driven solopreneurs. When or just mission-driven, even VC-backed founders, everyone who's mission-driven has this type of hubris. And this hubris is that, oh no, like technically I'm here, but technically I'm here, but really I'm over here. Technically I'm here, but really I'm over here. So that's a hallucination. So you got to keep that in mind. You got to have this be close enough together of where you actually are and what you want, because that has to be attainable. $100 a day is something very attainable, I think, for everyone if you just have AI and you have a teacher like me. So that's why I'm setting this up. And then the need that I'm setting this up is for time freedom and location freedom. Our case studies here are then going to be how we back test this idea. So we have Kazar, and so when we were working on Kazar, we talked about Kazar's nightmare of what not knowing calculus cost him. And the big issue that we went over in our previous lessons was a misalignment. The misalignment here was that if we come back to our equation, where Kazar is right now versus what he wanted, where Kazar was actually way over here in left field. Where Kazar is that, okay, like he's a young guy. He's never actually, like, he doesn't have 10,000 hours of work experience. He is someone who's a student. As a student, and many of you guys, right, like this freshman orientation, your job as a student is that you're going to observe, you're going to apply, you're going to understand. And so, like, you're doing an internship, you're working in a team, someone else closed the deal, right? That's the difference between being the student and then when you go to the other side, which is, okay, not only am I going to observe what's happening, I am going to be accountable for the events that are happening. And then a lot of times, this is where people have too immature of a mindset, because someone would be like, oh, but like, because when I went over this with Kazar, his biggest objection was like, no, but if you just tell me exactly what to do, then I'll be able to do it. And why did this fail was that he's not accountable to anything. Then I have to do everything to teach him. It's going to take me 4 hours of my time to do that. Kazar's going to be like, all right, no big deal. For me, I'm going to be like, wait a second. Like, don't you know you're accountable to me? Like, I'm going to spend 4 hours of my time, and then it's going to take you, what, 6 weeks to get something done. And so now accountability matters a lot. You can't just observe and be like, I'm just going to watch. I'm helping. You have to be accountable. Then it's not only about applying knowledge, but then you are responsible for directing resources. So it's not just like, oh, hey, like, it's saying, hey, we have 1 week to produce these results. Not only do we have to get it done, but we have to know how we're going to spend all of our resources. And in the morning, in the afternoon, at the end of the day, going to be constantly figuring out, where do I direct my resources, so that because I'm going to be held accountable to a goal. Then it's not just about understanding. This is going to be about challenging. And so where Kazar is that he was like, oh, well, I'm just going to listen to this guy. Then I'm going to, I'm going to do what Alex Hermosi said. I am going to start an agency, and then boom, everything is just going to print. It's going to go up and to the right. His idea was that, oh, okay, like, I'm going to talk to someone who, like, I'm going to just talk to some people. Then they're going to tell me exactly what to do. And then we're going to go make so much crazy money. And we're going to make so much crazy money because what he thinks right now, and this is the issue, he thinks is that all you need is an idea. But what we know here is that ideas are nothing. It's all about execution. And execution is a losing game when you have bad strategy. So we have an issue where, because R could just execute all day. He could be like, all right, cool. Like, I'm just going to work 60 hours a week. But it's not working for him because he's going all into the wrong places, and all into the wrong places because he's not applying calculus when he's thinking about pricing and revenue. When he's thinking about pricing and revenue, he's getting too greedy, right? And that's because of what I told you guys. There's a difference between, you know, where you are and what you want. And so by simply forgetting that, he's like, oh, I have an idea. Like, we will just get onto a call. We will do a podcast. We'll talk to people. Then those podcast people will magically join our agency. And then we will have so much money that we won't know what to do with it. And I'm like, no, that's just not how that works. Like, that is such a wrong, incorrect idea. So we have to really understand the difference between where you are, what you want, and then there's what you need. And what you need is that alignment. And so that's why it's so important to draw these things out and slow the hell down. Okay. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to use AI for rapid prototyping. Now, how will we use AI for rapid prototyping? And what is rapid prototyping? So let's go through the definition together. So rapid prototyping is a fast way to build and test working models of a new idea. That's what rapid prototyping is. Anytime you make anything with AI, it is considered to be rapid prototyping. That is why many of you are trying to build things with AI, but no one is buying them because everyone sees right through you. They're like, oh, okay, like you made something quickly on a new idea that you randomly had, and now you think that I'm dumb enough to buy it, right? So keep that in mind. Is that a lot of people? The reason you're not succeeding with AI begins with the mindset of being greedy, or it comes from the toxicity of your own hubris. And for many people, this is best represented as stupid solopreneurship. This is the toxicity of your own thinking that, okay, the world is wrong, everything is bad. I have a mission. I'm going to ignore everything, and then magically everything is going to be okay. And that I will not use an understanding of time and math. So notice here how my goal is like intuition, to just understand foundational concepts. So as we're here, our goal now is to say, okay, with Agentic Commerce, companies that have already set up the payment rails, how could we use AI for rapid prototyping? So how could we use AI for rapid prototyping? And let's get three things into the board. So number one is to get a vibe check. I made something and I will see how it makes. You know what? I'm not even going to do the sub bullet points. We're just going to have the vibe check. Like, hey, does this feel good? Does this feel good to me? That's step one. All right, that's a vibe check. Then we're going to say, okay, well, is it sensible? Can other people naturally use this? And then the third thing that we're going to do is we're going to do a battle test. Could an alien use this. So this is more of a thought experiment. So how do we use AI for rapid prototyping? First, we want to get a vibe check. And so how would we pursue getting a vibe check? And so the way that we pursue getting a vibe check is quite simply through something called doing a treatment. What's a treatment? Let's look that up. What's the difference between some of these concepts? What is treatment? Now notice here how, well, if I was to ask AI, I would get a really bad answer here. It would think that this is medicine or surgery. Damn sure is not what I'm saying. It missed the context. What's a design treatment? We're going to get a much different answer now. The specific stylistic visual structural approach applied to a project. So it's saying that imagine here in this treatment, I have a hypothesis. It's something I want to observe. I want to observe and test. And it has to be something that's written down. You can't pivot on this like every second. So let's take a look. What do we want to test? As I mentioned before, AI is quite phenomenal with working with coding agents. And so this is a website that we designed last night. And this has a lot of the classes that you are seeing from this series. And so you can click here. Uh, you see, the previous lectures are inside of there. This is almost like a kind of picture in picture a little bit, but that's from a previous lecture. It has like timestamps. In addition to that, it has like a little bit of test that you can go for yourself inside of here. And so now this is here. So this is a hypothesis. And to have a hypothesis, I need to write it down. So let's do a worked example. And so what is my hypothesis right now? Well, my hypothesis right now, it's not just about this one page. My actual hypothesis is that, okay, like, could we start selling PDFs? And as a business, can we sell things together? Can we sell multiple products together? Can we create a whole catalog of PDFs you can buy and a service ladder into a membership? So now this is my hypothesis here. So my hypothesis, could we create a whole catalog of PDFs that you could buy and then like go into a membership? When I look at this pricing page, I'm like, okay, the page doesn't fully make sense, but it is organizing everything that we could sell and then just making it into a page where it's like, boom, take a look, Stripe. So nice and easy. So I see that, okay, this is super easy to do. Does it feel good to me? I'm like, okay, this feels good enough because I know I can guide people to there. I can use these links. I can sell it in that way. And so I know that if I want to make a whole catalog of PDFs that I can buy and then build a service ladder where then you can pay for one membership, you can pay for retained services, and then you could pay for premium membership. And then you can go even higher up into, like, let's say a quote unquote elite membership. So this is the vibe check. Does this feel good to me? And the vibe check comes by having a hypothesis and then applying a design treatment. The way that this was made is this is made specifically using a tool, which I will go over in one of the future lectures now that I have painted this. is using Codex. This is, I think, probably the best tool for doing treatments. I think right now, you know, Claude and Anthropic just kind of really, really sucks. I think I'm actually going to cancel my I think I'm going to cancel my Anthropic membership as well, just because, like, AI is getting so crazy expensive, and, like, no one can really keep up with it anymore. It's not giving the value back unless you direct it accordingly. Now, the next step is sensibility. Can other people naturally use this? And so now, in order for me to test if it's sensible, how would I do that? That becomes extremely nebulous. Now, the way that we would do that is through analytics. And so if I have analytics set up, then, this is going to work totally fine. But now we have to say, okay, I have to actually set up the analytics. I can't just talk about analytics, like, it has to work. So we will get into the analytics. Let me find my screen. So let's get to the analytics. So look, this is the analytics for the page. And so I can see when people came here, what pages did they go to, how many users actually came in versus how many sessions came in, how many users were new, how much time did they spend in each of the sections on my website. And notice here where I'm like, okay, 4 people came in, 3 people came in over here and spent 14 minutes thinking about what they could get, and 2 of them were new users. I have to say, okay, well, that's data that I really want to start understanding. And now when I go to understand that data, I can start to take a look at very different ways of understanding user acquisition. I can even see if people are finding me through search. Um, if I am trying to take a look at anything for sales, this is something that will need to get set up. So for sensibility, what we must do in this, so if the treatment is a hypothesis and then checking your hypothesis, the sensibility check is scaling the experiments where n is greater than 50. Now, why am I, and many people may not understand this concept of n being the sample size. And when the sample size is greater than 50, where n greater than 50, this is called statistical significance. Because many times people be like, oh, I have an idea. I have an idea that, what, people, they're sick of talking to AI. They actually want to come to my membership program and just talk things through. And they're like, yeah, well, you know what? I talked to someone and they were like, oh my God, this is the thing that I really need the most. Oh my God, I need it so much. Then they go make everything. No one uses it. And then they're like, oh, what happened? What happened here? This is the trap of stupid solopreneurship. Why? Why would that be the case? Let's come back here. Numeracy is the new literacy. One person told you, oh, hey, go do this for me, right? Now you could go build it, or in the case of Khazar's nightmare, you said, okay, sure, I'll do it, but it ended up costing you too much because there was that misalignment. Khazar sold in Pakistan into Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad, big cities, to doctors who can afford it. They're thinking, okay, great. Like, I just need something that is going to be good, reliable, it works. I'm someone who's not going to waste my time. Over here, they were like, okay, I need more. Like, I'm not just making this website. This website has to make me money. My clients have to be able to book on it, to be able to use this website. I can't just have a website and be differentiated. That's because, in the American economy, because, like, we could technically say the internet was invented in America. Like, We're just kind of a couple decades ahead in terms of infrastructure in many places. So people have big expectations. And so then it just costs a lot more. And then in addition to that, Kazar might hear like, oh, okay, well, the client wanted to get on a call with me. It's like, okay, that's a hypothesis, but then the client didn't buy anything. Or it took you 3 phone calls and then doing some free service to get an unpaid client. And so really what's happening is that Kazar's nightmare, again, is just wasting time. And in the stupid solopreneurship example, this is saying like, hey, like, uh, I had an idea, it was good. I talked to one person or I talked to Claude and Claude said it was good. So then I just started doing it and then it failed miserably. So for sensibility in AI prototyping, this is where we need to have statistical significance. And so how can we have statistical significance when working with AI? This is when you deploy your AI artifacts to the internet. Let 50 people use it. Observe, track, observe data, talk to users. That's it. So in this sensibility phase with AI, it's saying like, hey, the simplest thing that we can do is get the AI artifact that you made, send it to people with a link. Or you could just send them a file, whatever's going to work for you. But sending a link is usually the top way that things go, just sending a link. And so I'm going to simplify this further into being sending a link. That's it. Send a link to enough people, but it must be statistically significant. So 50 people have to use it. Then we track and observe data and talk to users. So your vibe check, like in terms of time, this is going to happen in minutes. This is going to happen in weeks. And then battle testing this, well, actually, this is going to happen over the course of months and a year. Oh, so wait a second. So with everyone who, like, you hear that Claude can do this week, then you start doing it, then you try doing something with it, it doesn't work, then you go try the next thing. And so you're constantly rapidly prototyping, nothing gets created. The only thing that benefits is your ability to do rapid prototyping. And so maybe if you have someone who has a high need for rapid prototyping, maybe you'll get paid that way. But in actuality, when we realize this of moving up this ladder of vibe coding, like first it starts with the vibe check, something that happens in minutes. But then we need to stick with something for weeks. We have to see, can other people naturally use this? And using that data, we then talk to users and then we start battle testing this. Because once we get into this phase, this is when we then have to do something, send links, and then we make hard decisions. We have to make a decision of what to cut. And so in this decision of what to cut, let's go through this decision of what to cut for Kazar that we learned. So what to cut for Kazar is that this idea that he is going to be a web design agency or a marketing agency. For Kazar, this costs too much money. If he has partners, he's going to end up screwing them over, and it's going to take them weeks and months to do things that are super basic. And so they will be net negative revenue for many, many months until the partnership dies, or you end up creating a slave deal for yourself. So that's what to cut. And so now what we have to realize that, he wanted to do a whole marketing agency that was going to offer everything you see here. I'm going to do outbound using Clay. I'm going to make you a website. I'm also going to spend time doing client services so you have time on my calendar. I also can do Facebook ads and Google ads. In addition to that, I can help you do a brand deal. And then in addition to that, I can also do a paid PDF. And then in addition to that, I can also help you with your video. Oh boy. That's a horrible idea. It's a horrible idea, not because like, oh, it can't be successful. We could postulate that it will be successful. It's just so minimally probable. And the fact that people do not have the ability to argue and debate this with mental models from calculus, they will come down into emotions to do this, and then they'll stay stuck. And so when this happens, this is when you're like, okay, it's not only what things to cut, but then sometimes you have to cut people as well. And so the hard decision of what to cut is also going to be like when you go to talk to users, who to not focus on. Many times people be like, oh no, like if we have the ability to make a sale, we got to make the sale. And it works if you already have validation in what you're selling, you already have good systems in place, it's going to work. Else, you're wasting your time. I don't like wasting my time. So, with rapid prototyping, the first thing we do is we have a hypothesis, right? A hypothesis that can be tested in minutes. So, a vibe check, now I'm going to say, in other words, i.e., hypothesis to generate artifact in minutes. Now the sensibility check. So now this is going to be sensibility, i.e., observe real world data and cut 50%. Now, this is also where solopreneurs, if you tell them to cut something and they're not ready for it, they usually can't handle it. So this is why many solopreneurs end up failing, is because at this step they start going la 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 la, and we can just call that blissful ignorance, and we can call that like, hey, this is the exact reason why you're failing. Then once we go to this hard decision, like, okay, so what we've done is we have made something. We've also decided that we will also decide what we're going to cut. And so by cutting, selling our time, we're not going to sell marketing services either. We're only going to sell PDFs. Now I can observe the data on selling the PDFs with analytics, right? And so sensibility analytics. So it's not about crazy analytics. And then it's also about knowing this is what I need to cut. And what I need, and so what to cut, it's like what users to cut, what people to cut, what places to not be anymore. We have to make these hard decisions of what to cut. Then we get into the final stage of rapid prototyping, and this is battle testing. And so in battle testing here, let's get into battle testing. And this is, could an alien use this, right? So let's see if we can try to understand this concept briefly. So how would we battle test? Well, the first thing we will do is we will take a look at analytics. Now, currently, for this current offer, it is not ready for battle testing. It still needs 1 month of data before we can do hardening. And so with battle testing, we need to say, well, could an alien use this? And, the alien being like, hey, I made something. Can you just naturally use it? This is battle testing. And so really, this, I would say, is measured through an advertising campaign. Could I create a flyer? Could I promote this offering and drive 1,000 people to the website and then see what happens? By running campaigns, I can then measure campaigns, and then I can see that. And the goal being scale. Like, hey, does this still perform well under scale? Does it perform well under load? And one of the things that we realize in our sensibility check in Khazar's nightmare is that when Khazar tries to do even simple websites, it takes him 1 week to make the sale with 3 to 4 free phone calls. Then he services the deal, but then it takes him a full week plus another person to service the deal. So week 1, he can sell. Week 2, he serves. Week 3, he has to go back to selling because week 2, he was so busy serving the previous deal. Week 4 is his chance to now serve customer 2. However, in week 4, customer 1 can come back and say, hey, wait a second, all this is broken. Or I changed my whole calendar. I need an update immediately. You told me that when I signed up that you're my guy and I'm just going to be able to call you and you're going to be like, it's so easy. You'll just get it done in the morning, right? That was the promise. So really what's happening is that you have an ad campaign, and really what you're doing is you're testing the promise. So really the goal here is saying, well, what is the promise guarantee? And now this is like, I will call this entropy. So this is entropy or chaos management. How do we do that? So for rapid prototyping, this is my technique of first, just over minutes, I need to do a vibe check. Can I make something? Over a couple of weeks, I will do a sensibility analysis. And that sensibility analysis is what you saw from a previous lecture of validation and feasibility. Then I will check the promise and guarantee, managing entropy, managing chaos. And then how do I manage chaos? It's going to be through calculus, because when we take a look at ad campaigns and testing our promise and everything I talked about, let's take a look here. In calculus, I care about setting my pricing, which is something we did, forecasting an inventory, why I eliminated and cut previous inventory of, hey, we'll make you a website, we'll do your marketing. For financing and investing of where do I spend my money, that money is actually going to be like, the funny thing here, when you're first starting out, your investment should be back into your own growth marketing. That's what it should be, right? You probably shouldn't be investing in like, oh, I'm going to do all this. I'm going to build all this stuff. Because if you try to invest in this before you validated that these timelines actually work and that this resource allocation works, you're going to get screwed, right? So the first thing you want to do is you want to just test your promise. You can test your promise quite a bit, and then okay, every time I put $1 into my business, I get $3 back. Or you might say, hey, every time I put $1 into my business, I lose the whole dollar, or I only get 10 cents back. Now okay, I'm gonna have to quit this. Unless I can do an equation which will say, hey, if I put $1 into Kazar, and then every time I give Kazar $1 and the value gets destroyed, I only have a dime left, I could say, you know what, fine. If I have $10,000, I can play this game quite a bit, and then I may get to this magic point where by doing the things which are not totally scalable, eventually I can hit escape velocity because I'll have enough things in place. But just keep in mind, your time horizon needs to be in years. So, today's discussion was using AI for rapid prototyping, and the rapid prototyping being like, how do we just vibe create stuff? And as we're vibe creating stuff, we realize we use the AI for minutes, but then we spend the majority of our time with AI, not in AI, but using analytics. And then when we use people and direct people to analytics, this actually takes weeks to do, which means I shouldn't be making a bunch of new shit with AI. I should just be saying, hey, this is the thing that's out. I have to test this hypothesis, and then I have to make the hard decision. What do I cut? How do I cut? Once I cut so much, and then I'm like, okay, this is the baseline thing I can do. I can offer you a PDF. Right? So now I'm like, okay, well, can I test that promise? Can I sell a PDF with an advertising campaign that leaves me profitable? And so this is going to be entropy and chaos management. Like, do I have the means to do that? And so now with calculus, what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim to have a regenerative formula. This regenerative formula, as we end today's class, is going to be our business calculus formula. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at several different factors. So let's zoom in and look at some of these factors real quick. So factor number one is cost to get the customer. This is known as CAC. That's number one. That's the first factor. The next factor is going to be time. So this is going to be measured based on now you can measure this in a couple different ways, like how many touch points and time to close the sale. So how much time goes in. So first we have the dollar cost, and then we have the time cost. Okay. Now, what is another factor of doing this? Well, this is going to be the time to serve and deliver. So I probably need to group these two things together. Great. So I have the cost to get the customer. Then I have the time of how much touch points and time it's going to take to close. Then the time to serve and deliver. Then I'm going to take a look at revenue measured by time. So with that customer, all right, well, I made you a website and now in 3 months you're going to pay me? Oh, we got a problem. I did the work today. I took the cost today, but I don't get paid for 90 days. I can't focus anymore if that is the problem. Now, if on the flip side, I sell you something today, you pay me up front. Now, okay, well, how much do you have to pay me in order for this to be worth my time? Now, people typically say, like, okay, look, if it costs you $100 to get a customer, just make sure one customer pays for the next customer. So if I was to say, look, like it's $100 to get the customer, and then if within day one customer joins, gives me $200, I've now sold customer one, but they've given me enough money to go buy customer two. I now have something that can magically beat these four factors because my cost to get a customer is half of what they're giving me. Now I have enough time to sell them. I have enough time to serve them and get, right? Because I have enough time to get the next customer while having enough time to support them. And the money came in a timely manner so that I can plan and forecast. Planning and forecasting later. Because remember, when we talked about financing and investing, people typically think about, oh, I'm going to buy this tool, I'm going to buy this software. And you're really trying to buy something for your logistics and operations because you can't handle the thought of thinking about many different things because you don't want to. You're saying, I'm a mission driven entrepreneur. La, 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 la. I don't need to listen to you, broy marketers. And in actuality, it's like, no, you've shot yourself in the foot so badly, and your business is totally going to fail now. And so in the beginning, we want to go through this vibe check formula to say, hey, if I have some money, I want to forecast when I'm going to make my money back. And then how do I put that into ad campaigns? That's the ultimate goal. If we can do that, then I can vibe create something. This is going to happen in minutes. Then instead of just making more and more and more, actually, I need to cut and observe over weeks. And by cutting and saying, yeah, in the beginning, I started selling to everyone. Then I realized this one pocket of users, they're the ones who are responding the fastest, paying properly. So now I'm going to find, now that I observed that, I'm going to cut everyone else out. and I'm going to ask them, what if I promise you this and I guarantee this, will you give me this? And then if we can get to this magic point where someone's like, you know, this is going to cost you $100 to do, but they're going to give you $200 up front. Now we know, oh, okay, I have something that's worth an ad. And then you're going to see, okay, well, I got 10 of these and then I got burned out. I did 30 of them and oh man, this is awesome. Like, this is so easy. That's why in our agentic commerce class, we're going to start with just selling a PDF, because it eliminates the logistics overhead compared to a service-based business. And I will generally recommend no one should do a service-based business because it is a losing game. You may as well just kind of have a contract, which is like, your work for hire type of contract. And if you're doing a work for hire contract, it's also a very suboptimal strategy. You want to just get into the right network of people, and do something like that. And you can have a basic EIN number, but you shouldn't be thinking that you have like an actual business model around a single service. And so today's class was really using the anti-goal of solopreneurship so that we could then know where to focus with AI rapid prototyping. And the big secret we walked away with is that AI will generate something in minutes. You then have to send that to people after you know it looks good to you. And then you need to get real world data, and you need to cut everything until only by cutting things you can find someone who you can then give a promise and a guarantee to, and they will give you double the cost of what it's going to take you. If you can't do that, then I'm telling you, unless you could be a nepo baby, meaning that you have a trust fund and you don't have to think like this, or you could be like a startup, which is also a different type of nepo baby, where you have millions of dollars to just burn. What I'm showing you is that if you're a normal person like me, like you, this is how we can go through rapid prototyping and how we go through this process of vibe checking, analytics, and then battle testing by running an advertising campaign, battle testing what we're promising to customers, but then managing the promise to customers by only cutting what we offer. In Kazar's nightmare, the issue is that, oh, a customer finally talked to me, so then I'm going to promise them everything, and then you can't do it. And then by not being able to do it, a bunch of people said yes in the beginning. You disappointed them later, your whole business collapses, and you just wasted a bunch of time, and you've effectively destroyed time, energy, and money. Our goal is to not destroy time, energy, and money. It is to multiply time, energy, and money. And so in the next class, we're going to get deeper into this PDF strategy that I made for Kazar, Anthony, and myself. And you're going to see that this is already live. And so anyone who's a founding member, you're already going to have access to each of these things. You'll be able to see them in advance, and even contribute to helping us build and create these. So thank you. And I will see you in the next one. This concludes this part of freshman orientation, talking about agentic commerce. Today, we observed a phenomena in the real world of everything is about who's creating the rails right now. And a lot of people, mission-driven entrepreneurs, they get lost in thinking that they think that they can do it. We started the class by saying numeracy is the new literacy. People, especially people online, do not understand time and math. There's massive differences between 1,000, million, billion, and trillion. Solopreneurs should be thinking in terms of minutes, in terms of days, and weeks. People who are truly mission driven will have the ability to forecast out 30 years. They will have the ability to consistently do something for 30 years. If they don't have that ability, I will not put them in my mission-driven category. They do not have that ability. Then when we have the ability for people who can think in terms of civics being thousands of years, the world is going to change. Okay, now you're ready to start thinking about trillions. So just remember, like, there's a lot of elite rat races out there which will try to tell you not to focus on foundational information, just start making money today. But then it puts you into the rat race, the hamster wheel, whatever you want to talk about this. And so by going through today's example, we explored a real life case study of turning Khazar's nightmare into what will then be Anthony's dream. Okay. So that is going to be the next one. We're now going to transform Khazar's nightmare into Anthony's dream and see if